Hey guys, welcome back to the Snapring Chronicles. Today we're doing a little bit, something a little bit different, kind of a tutorial on how how do I usually get ratchets and not how I usually get them, but in what condition I usually get them, and I just want to make a video to go through the motions of how do I like clean up some of these ratchets that I get. And if you look at the videos, I've had quite a few. So usually some are worse than others. Some come pretty good, pretty clean, and others come horrible. Looks, you can tell they look. Some of these ratchets are like 40, 50, 60 years old, and you can tell they've never been opened up and never been serviced. So I just want to give you an idea of what I usually encounter. Here we have an Indestro. It's a 2775, and they label this Super, Indestro Super USA. And this is kind of typical of a ratchet that I might get. Okay, it has a little plastic hanging tag here. And if you look in, you can see the hole where the hanging hole. It's pretty dirty in there, and the handle's been, let's just say, it's been used. It's well used. A little bit of rust on it. See here, there's a little bit of pitting and stuff, and you can see the retention ring there. There's a lot of crud in the corners there. Some scraping on the side here, and a little bit more rust here. But how's it sound? It sounds a little bit muffled, to tell you the truth. Not that crisp in the ratcheting, so I could tell pretty much that this is something that's in need of service. Okay, so let me show you the weapons that I use. This is the lifeblood of cleaning for me. Cleaning ratchets is WD-40. I use this usually to clean all my ratchets. So, and I don't just and start spraying. I use kind of a measured attack. What I do is I take a jar usually, and I fill it, or I fill some of it with WD-40. And inside the jar I have a pipette, which I use to just use a measured amount of WD-40 to the areas I want to have saturated and cleaned. And this pipette just usually sits in this jar, and that's some of the WD-40 there on the bottom. I don't like just spraying everything, because the spray, like, it mists into the air, and I don't want it all over the place. So I just take the spray or whatever, and I spray inside the jar, hopefully like outside where it's not gonna go all over the place, and just get a little bit of WD in the jar, and a little bit goes a long way. I tell you, I've used that little bit in the jar for a long time, and I haven't had to replace too much. And one day I would like to get the gallon of WD-40, but I don't think I would use it. And from what I've seen, the prices right now, the gallon's like 25 bucks at Harbor Freight. And I don't know, that just seems more than what I want to pay for it. Okay, so alright, so we got the needle nose and we get the ring out, and we see someone tried to oil this somehow, and I don't think they opened it up. They probably tried to get through the cracks some oil, so it's a little bit moist. And here's the ring, and this is what I usually get in rings. A ring that's pretty down and funky with dirt and oil. You can see there. Oh, and another thing is I like to use these rags. They're just like old t-shirts that I just cut up, and I use them as rags. And yeah, this is pretty. You can see all the crud there on my gloves. And right about here, I'll take a little bit of WD-40, and I'll put some on to soften up the dirt and grime and grease and rust or whatever. Get a little bit softer, and I'll just wipe it down. Looks pretty good. A lot better. Still I can feel it's kind of cruddy. Probably has a little bit of pitting on it also. But yeah, not too bad. Right there. And also, if there's some pitting or whatever, I'd take like a brass brush and just brush it off a little bit. Brush it off and hit it maybe with a little bit more WD-40, and it should get most of that crud and pitting off of it. Okay, here's the switch cap, and you can see it's pretty bad, but not the worst. See some oil, a little rust and dirt there inside the cap. See more of the same. Just take a little bit of DW40. I always like saying DW40. I don't know if you noticed that. Instead of WD-40. I always get those two confused. Here, let's try to get the cap a little bit cleaner. You see the rag gets pretty dirty. There you go. Not looks starting to look better. Yeah, much better. Then try to get inside, get the crud out. And also what I like to do is I'll get some, just drop some WD-40 in to a crevice or something, then take a pick, wrap it in the rag, and start getting into those spaces. See the crud it picks up? Those little nooks and crannies in there. So that's looking better. And the mechanism, yeah, it needs work. So here where the snap ring sits, put some WD-40 into the channel. Put a little bit here on the anvil and on the mechanism itself, on the pawl, whatnot. Just give it like an initial, just cleaning up. And I take the rag and I put my nail in it, into that channel where the ring goes, and just spin it around to get most of that grime out. See, looks a little bit better in there. All that old grease and grime and dirt. Yeah, I like using the WD-40 as opposed to other stuff. I just think it softens everything up pretty good to where it becomes kind of mushy, and then it's easy to push around and to catch with the rag. Because a lot of times you'll find in the crevices there'll be hard grease or something, and I just squirt it with the WD-40 and I might, where'd it go? I might hit it with the pick and the WD-40 and just make it in mushy instead of like it's usually hard and crumbly. I'll make it mushy and soft, and it's a lot easier to just mop up with the rag instead of like having all these little, if you went with the pick and nothing else, you'd have all these like little pieces all over the place, little pieces of hard grease all over. And I don't know, I find that this is, when it's liquefied, it's easier to clean. And you can see it's doing pretty much better there. Still needs a little. Around the edges here, needs a little. I'm looking at the time. We're almost reaching 15 minutes, and I don't want to turn this into a half-hour video, so I'm not gonna tear the whole thing down. I'm just gonna show you what I do, just the superficial parts here. because if I went to tear this down, this is not one of the easy ratchets to put together and to clean all the little parts and stuff. It's gonna take a while. So I just show you, the basics, and you guys, you can take it from there. If you wanted to tear the whole thing apart, you can do that, and it's basically the same thing. You follow the same procedure. And sometimes on the paw teeth, they'll have some crud or hard stuff. I'll just soften that up with the pick and the WD-40, and then I just mop it up with the rag. Let's get in the crevices there of the paw and the teeth, and just lift up all that schmutz. So this is looking better. And here, this is the main part where it's a lot of crap. What I do is I hit it like everything else with a good amount of WD-40. Hit it in there, get all the crevices. You're gonna need a few drops here. A good amount. Get it good and saturated to soften all that crap up. All the crud and the oil and the dirt and the rust of 50 years of a ratchet sitting somewhere. And I take the pick, I go around the grooves, and I soften all of it up. Get these grooves down here. And when I have time, I usually do this, but I'm not going to do this in a video because it's a little bit consuming. I guess something a little bit sharper than this, maybe a needle pick. And I start with the WD-40, I start going back and forth on the teeth and getting all the crud out on each tooth. Softening up all that hard accumulation grease. So I'll go all the way around, and I'll get most of the teeth done, or all of the teeth. And then I just take this and let's go around and try to get as much as I can. Use my fingernail and the rag and go around the edges. Try to pick up as much as I can, as much of this black residue liquid, the WD-40 and the grease and all that combined. And like I did before, I take the pick, I wrap it in the rag, and I get in there to all the crevices, and I try to get them all clean, get all that grease out. See all that? Yeah, I'm going way over on this video, but I'm trying to show you guys, what usually I encounter. Over here, there's a good amount of hard stuff, grease or whatever, and this process you're gonna have to do maybe a couple of times. You see in that corner, there's like some rust, grease, and I hit it with the pick again. Try to soften all that up. Get as much of it off as I can. Go with the rag. And still needs work. But you can see it's a lot of it cleaned up, but like I said, you're probably gonna have to do this a couple of times with the WD-40 and the pick and the rag and stuff like that. So alright guys, this video is way too long, and that's just some pointers on how I usually take apart and clean these ratchets, because usually I show the ratchets, and if you notice, they're all pretty good shape, they're all clean. It's because beforehand I had to pre-game it and really put some elbow grease into it so the ratchets look presentable, so you can see what I'm talking about when I take them apart and show you the parts and all that. Instead of seeing like globs of grease, you can see the actual mechanisms. So that's about it. Alright guys, till next time.